Trump's decision to make a decision under 2 weeks has come out true. He did make a decision and it did come out in under 2 weeks. And of course, I'm sure everybody has already heard about it. Trump has struck the nuclear sites in Iran. Now, rather than, we'll talk about it, but let's listen directly from him since he had a press conference soon after it happened, and I just need to find it.
The objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
A lot easier. So we'll talk more about the statements. He also made statement on his Truth Social, which I think there's one sentence that is a bit scary. But overall, great stuff. So joining me today are Marco, Richard, and ER Reichel. Welcome to the Daily Objective, and I'll go to you, ER. So one more thing I would jump in is Iran has not responded to the US yet, at least according to latest reports, but has very quickly attacked Israel right after. So, Yar, how has your night been? And yeah, how are you handling this? And what do you think?
So I've seen the news live, and it made me feel very affectionate to the United States of America. It's been a wonderful night. Very thrilling, very happy, a feeling of finally justice is happening. And this is a particular kind of justice that directly affects my own future and my life and my sense of security. So it was great news. It was so much fun. I want to say and praise the United States for also a wonderful OSINT diversion operation. They did a little trick, flying B-2 bombers to Guam with all of their radars and reporting open to make all the OSINT reported think the United States is going to make a stop at Guam. It's going to take a while. And in the meanwhile, a whole bunch of other B-2 airplanes were on the way to attack Iran stealthily. So that was a brilliant by the side of the United States of America. They attacked Fordo and 2 other facilities. So this is great. Once again, the thing that scared me the most was this two-sided statement of like, we can give you peace, but if you'll retaliate, there will be further war. So this always, it's like a two-sided sword. Once again, I was very scared that Iran would cave and they would say, wave a white flag, but the negotiations would lead to the Ayatollah regime remaining on power. And I'm glad, in a sense, I wouldn't say glad, but the fact that Iran is shot another barrage at Israel at 7 a.m. Israeli time this morning, and the fact that the Houthis have announced the peace agreement with the United States of America, and when I say peace agreement, it's of course, in air quotations, is off. So once again, Iran is stopping the West from screwing himself up. So in a sense, this is I'm glad we are still attacking Iran and keep going with that. Now I have another thing to say. The Ayatollah regime is on complete chaos. They are on damage control. They have stated that now the war has just begun. And I'm asking, just now, when all of the top commanding of officers of your army are gone, when tens of nuclear scientists are dead, they've threatened, all of their nuclear facilities have gone. They have threatened that if the United States will attack, they will go in against US assets and do all sort of things. And now their statements after the United States has attacked, their statement is, "Oh, it wasn't that bad. The damage is not significant. We evacuated all the facilities." They're in complete panic. Uh, I want to share personally. I had an alarm in 7 a.m. as I said, and this was a different kind of alarm because I told myself, okay, they might like empty all their warehouses, shoot a huge barrage, a bunch of missiles. So no, it wasn't such a big barrage as well. Unfortunately, there was damage in Israel, but it wasn't as bad as I think it would be. And also, uh, I took this little American flag behind me that I have. I got it in the United States last year at Independence Day, and I took it with me to the shelter. And in the shelter, I was taking selfies with the flag. My wife and I were taking selfies, and this guy next to me asked for the flag to take a selfie with it as well. And this is just a little demonstration of how the Israelis seeing the situation as of now. And once again, the Israeli people are resilient and they have the moral upper hand by far. This is not even a comparison. So I'm very glad, and also I'm glad we keep on fighting this regime. And I'm there is nothing I want more right now other than this regime to completely collapse and be destroyed. I want the people of Iran to overthrow this regime. I want the Ayatollah to survive so Mossad agent can bring him to Israel in a unique operation and put him on trial here. And I want him to be executed by Israel after a trial displaying the horrors of this regime.
Yeah, absolutely. And somebody in the chat says they haven't responded with an attack, but they did respond with a lot of threats. And yeah, that's something we have been seeing from Iran. I think it was the Iran's foreign ministry who said the US government will be responsible for very dangerous consequences. That's a weird way of phrasing it. But this was stated, and this was something I was worried about the most when U.S. attacks comes in, especially the reason I was wondering if the reason why Iranian attacks are getting smaller is the fact that the Iran wants to make sure they have the sort of like a second strike capability on the U.S. military bases. Basically, as soon as America strikes, they can strike back at America. This has not happened yet and might not actually happen at all since Iran had a strike capability and they did so against Israel, not against America. I mean, Marco, what do you make of Iran's actions and of this whole situation?
Yeah, first of all, we were to say that today, from this morning on, the world is a much, much safer place. The United States and Israel has made sure that the nuclear program from Iran, as Trump said, the number one sponsor terrorism, state sponsor of terrorism in the world, is been dealt a massive blow. And of course, the bull in the Middle East and all this rhetoric is very much welcome. We need, like Reagan called the USA the enemy of the West. We need
Soviet
to call.
Union.
Sorry,
You
called
said USA.
Oh, sorry, Soviet Union, the enemy of the West, the enemy. We need to spell out who the enemy is. We need to do exactly what Trump did, making the point, making a moral case. These guys are not our friends. These guys are not good people. So anything we do in order to push them back in a little box is welcome. But yes, they can strike back. They can respond to the attack. Of course, they have different options, but to me, whichever option they choose, although they might inflict some limited damage in the short term, it leads to the end of the regime. So yes, the US has got like about 20 bases, 20 military bases around the Middle East right now, especially those in Syria and Iraq are probably a higher risk. They have 40,000 troops in the Middle East. So there could be retaliation under different ways that Iran can do it. But as you mentioned, the capability is being taken out bit by bit. They have probably less than half the missile capability they had at the beginning. So everything, as I said, points out to the regime is not going to last much longer. Even the resistance on the ground in Iran is beginning to organize and beginning to make statements which suggest, okay, now it's time to hit. This is not just a 2 minutes thing that tomorrow the regime is back in charge. This is clearly a big blow for the regime, and the Iranian can start working towards making Persia great again.
And three-word tweets or three-word truth socials are not normally much to cheer, but the words "Fordo is gone" certainly are. And the way in which it was done, absolutely as well, with those B-2 stealth bombers dropping 6 of those bunker busters, one after the other, punching down through that mountain bit by bit at sort of 200 feet at a go in order to wipe out that nuclear site. And at the same time, 30 Tomahawk missiles fired from submarines 400 miles away to take out Natanz and Isfahan in one evening, overnight. That is not only is that a massive military success, it's a massive success in terms of pushing back against dictators the world over and showing how quickly $2 trillion of Iranian terror money can be wasted in one night, which is what's happened. That's something the Iranian resistance has pointed out. The Iranian regime has wasted, apart from anything else, such a lot of money on these sites that are now no more, and calling for the Iranians to rise up against their regime. I think the Marco pointed out there the 40,000 troops within the Middle East, and I've heard people say that every American is now a target. Every American was already a target. They've been a target for 45 years or more. And in the second half of the statement that Trump gave, when he talked about the 1,000 Americans who've lost their lives because of Iranian terror and action, both military and terrorist against civilians across the years, has shown that. So it does make the world a safer place for sure. And I think we can only cheer it. To be honest, it's fantastic news, and it's also a reassurance that this peace through strength was not a bluff, and that message is going to be loud and clear. If that had turned into peace through bottling it, that would have been catastrophic for every other place that wanted to cause hate and harm, nefarious hate and harm to the rest of humanity. That would have been a dreadful message to send. So the fact that this was clearly part of a coordinated effort, and the United States and Israel have been working closely together, that there is hope for the planet, and there's hope for everyone in the world right now, even if they can't see it yet. And there are many people who can't see it yet, but they absolutely will in time, because this is de-escalating the nuclear threat in the world, not escalating it.
Now, I see somebody in the chat saying this, and I've seen some people saying it, and I don't know if it's just Iran propaganda or if it has some basis, but somebody saying that materials were removed from Fordo before its destruction. Now, we do not have a full intelligence assessment yet. I think America is claiming that attacks were successful and all sites were destroyed. I think Israel is saying that attacks were successful, but they do not have the sort of like a complete intelligence assessment. But this sort of reminds me of one of the IRGC commanders who was targeted in Tehran, wasn't killed, tried to flee, and then was killed. It's like, sure, you can move around. The regime is going down. It doesn't, like, all the luck that Iran will have in the upcoming days when it comes to something not getting immediately destroyed, but maybe taking a few more days, is, I think, minute at this point. All of this is going down. And also, we have a recent statement from Iran saying any more targeting Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei will lock the door to any deal or negotiation for Iran. Such an act would be considered crossing all red lines and would justify an unlimited and unrestrained response. Again, I mean, ER, what is this unlimited, unrestrained response? Every single day since Israel attacked, we've been hearing that tonight something big is going to happen. Tonight, Iran will unleash something, that wonder wound.
I think the state of Iran, and I'll figuratively make a comparison, but actually the guy I'm comparing Iran to is has way more dignity than Iran. But the state is basically Iran is like a guy who's at the casino and he keeps losing everything, and he's currently betting on his underwear because that's the only thing he got left. So basically, they keep going with the same formula. That's the only thing they got. They have ballistic missiles and drone to shoot at Israel that Israel is capable of handling. Of course, it's not easy, and it's expensive, and we lose human life. But that's the only thing they have, and they keep going with the same threat. It's the same threat you did yesterday and 2 weeks ago. Now we just like, we keep moving a step and they keep moving the goal. So yesterday it was, well, if you attack our nuclear facilities. Now that America did this, like, oh, okay, if you continue, we'll attack. So it's just an empty threat. I've heard news about the Ayatollah asking the leader of Hezbollah to join, and the leader of Hezbollah brushed him off, which is hilarious because Hezbollah is the Iranian project, and now they're like seeing the tides turn, and they're like, okay, we better disconnect with Iran so we can survive. So that's extremely hilarious for me. Um, Also, I've heard some decent OSINT reporters, and I have no confirmation for that. And they were saying that, like, yeah, the Iranians were evacuating the yellow cake out of their facilities, but then Israel bombed the convoy, evacuating the yellow cake and stuff like that. Now, I have no facts that proven that, but this is likely that the Israeli intelligence and military, especially since we have total air superiority in Iran, and we have drones cruising there, and we have our air force, and we have whatever equipment we have, and agents within Iran. It's very likely that Israel knows about those evacuation uh, operations and are working to destroy the material. It is in Israel's interest, and Israel is capable, and Israel done way braver things. So it's very likely that it is the case. And one more thing, people are now talking about, sleeper cells in the states that now are going to wake up and do terror. And they're talking about, attacks on assets of the United States military in the Middle East. And they're saying, oh no, you shouldn't have attacked Iran because now those sleeper cells will wake up and those assets will be attacked in the Middle East. And those arguments are implying a moral sanction for those sleeper cells, a moral sanction for forces ready to attack America in the Middle East. They're basically saying, in a sense, it's implied by what they're saying that, well, it's okay that we have sleeper cells in the States. It's okay that there are those militants ready to attack the U.S. in the Middle East. It's fine. The solution for that is just so we wouldn't destroy evil and attack Iran or do whatever. We shouldn't do justice. So those good moral sleeper cells wouldn't attack us. How about taking it the other way around? The fact that Iran has influence over sleeper cells in the United States of America and have militias that can attack and and threat assets of the United States of America in the Middle East is another reason to destroy Iran. So those cells and assets that the terrorist group that trying to attack America will starve out. It's time to end this. It's time to go at war against whoever threatens the free world, whoever threatens America, Israel, Europe, Western states in Asia, whatever. It's time to take over. It's time to destroy evil. We have the moral right to do that, and people should wake up and understand that.
And somebody says in the chat, 183 viewers and only 46 likes. So make sure to like the show so more people can see it, and make sure to support the show because we bring you the most sort of like breaking news stuff. Now I'm seeing another report that apparently Iranian foreign minister is saying that all negotiation is over, that it will not negotiate, that all diplomacy doors have closed. And I don't know how true this is, because if it is true, then we pretty much are just going to destroy Now to go to you, Marco, I don't know where I want to jump first because there are a lot of other reactions we have from Western leaders and international leaders. I think we can leave it for a little bit later. I think there is a question of sort of what now? We have the American strike. Now, I think somebody in the chat said, what do we think about some of the Democrats saying that Trump has cannot declare war. Now, this isn't a declaration of war. This is sort of like a limited strike that I think we talked about it before. I think Trump has justification for doing so. I think he has to inform Congress on what exactly he is going to do, if he has any plans to sort of continue this, and then he has 60 days to execute it before even any congressional approval. So I think he's absolutely within his means, and every single president since Jimmy Carter has had the justification to go after Iran. So yeah, I mean, Marco, yeah, what do you make of both the some on the, well, I think one Republican, Thomas Massey, but also many of the Democrats trying to say that Trump has no justification to do so?
Well, to be fair, as I mentioned earlier on, this is a relatively easy thing to justify. First of all, it's not war, it's not boots on the ground. It's just effectively a couple of bombs here, there, strategic. If it works, good. If it doesn't, well, we'll bomb it a bit more. So it's not like a big, long campaign in the first place. And of course, as I mentioned earlier on, Iran is the number one sponsor of terrorism across the world. I mean, they already, in the last 40, 50 years, they already killed thousands of US troops through bombings and various campaigns carried out, either directly or indirectly. The Houthis have been bombing ships, commercial ships going through the Strait towards the Red Sea for years. Certainly in the last couple of years, they intensified this, and that goes against America's interest. Salman Rushdie himself is an Iranian sponsored attack. Lots of plots to kill people, plots to kill Trump himself were sponsored by Iran. So there is a ground there for actually saying that Iran is not a friend of the United States. And then again, if Iran chooses to, if the dying regime chooses to go out with a bang by attacking US directly, well, it's not going to last more than a couple of days, because US bombers will get rid of all the few bits left, will pick out the last facilities that the regime left, which are moving further and further towards the east, because Israel has already removed everything from the west border to Tehran. So that's not an issue. And the voices like Sanders and OSC, that she fell to the usual call for impeachment from Trump. Well, then we go impeachment. That's the strategy that they got. And all the other people like Marjorie Greene calling for, this is not our war. Well, open your eyes. This is your war. It's been your war for the last 50 years. It's been everybody's war for the last 50 years. Again, you can't understress how the involvement of Iran is behind the major events, terrorist events that have been occurring in the West for the last 50 years. If you dig down, it's Iran. The propaganda machine that we've seen in the university and colleges, that's surely funded by Iran. Things will come out eventually when the regime falls. We'll see the actual documents, and we'll have access to what they actually done. Hopefully we'll see the paper trail, we'll see the money trail, and we'll see how Iran has been actively involved in every single act of terrorism, significant act of terrorism, which we've seen in the last 50 years. So that in itself is war declaration. And as you mentioned, Trump just has to go to Congress, say, I intend to do this, but it's done anyway. So, he's the commander-in-chief of the army, of the US Army. So he's got some latitude to take emergency decisions and hit when it needs to. Yeah, as Yara pointed out, it was brilliant to make it look like, we just putting it there, putting the B2s there in Guam just to project some strength, but then actually doing the attack. And to be honest, it's been saying it. It's been saying it for a few days. So we would love to see him act a bit harder, but then again, you can't expect much academic statements from Trump. But what it really matters is what he does on the ground, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just on the point that you were making earlier about concern that nuclear material had been already taken out of Fordo, etc., and had been extracted from it, and that was a threat to humanity. Well, frankly, the people who make that argument wanted those sites to continue making more of it. It makes an absolute mockery of that argument, is to say that we would be safer if they could make more of it, but we shouldn't let it get out. So I mean, you've got to contain it. You've got to make sure you pursue it, and you've got to make sure you know exactly what happened to it for sure. But that doesn't negate the argument. And the other argument that people make is about the cards that Iran has. Obviously, the nuclear card was the one they've been playing for decades. It's what it's been getting them so much clout at the negotiating table for decades, and it shouldn't have. And it's allowed that program to grow. The other card that people pull out is, oh well, they're going to block the Strait of Hormuz. This only means that shipping is now going to be blocked, and the 20 million barrels of oil that pass through that strait won't be able to go through, and that'll have an effect on the world economy. Yeah, for how long? Whilst all of the submarines and the ships are blown up, and that is opened up again. I mean, again, that is a lousy threat to use. It won't be very long. It won't last very long, and Iran is running out of cards. And then there's the point you made about sleeper cells and about inspired terrorist attacks. Those terrorist attacks have been going on anyway, haven't they, for decades? And they have been inspired by the fact that Iran appeared to be so strong. They were inspired by all the propaganda footage of jeeps underground showing off their missiles running through their tunnels. It's been inspired by the fact that Iran had a nuclear program and was developing it, and all the photographs of the leaders inspecting centrifuges and all the rest of it. All of that was behind them in terms of the propaganda, and all of that's gone. The illusion, the myth that Iran was the great mighty strength is gone, and that ultimately only diffuses the enthusiasm of people to die for a cause. You may well get the odd incident here or there. That is always possible, particularly when people are fueled by religious fanaticism. But you've sucked the life out of the idea that terror works. You've sucked the life out of the idea that it's some unstoppable, some acceptable, necessary part of life that we have to live with, and it can't be pushed back against. Because that's what this activity overnight has done. It's pushed back against the notion that terror, as a means of achieving your ends, and then coming to the negotiating table year after year, would gradually, incrementally get these awful regimes and more power. And this has pushed them back in one evening. So that's great news. And I think hearing AOC and all the rest of it make their comments is no surprise, is it? We know all that. But I think Netanyahu's comment that first comes strength, then comes peace. That's what the last 24 hours have shown.
Yeah, and so I would bring up one quote. This is a tweet. I'm gonna cut out the top line, and you try to guess who this is from. There would not be bombs falling on the people of Israel if Netanyahu had not dropped bombs on the people of Iran first. Israel is a nuclear-armed nation. This is not our fight. Peace is the answer. I don't know if you guys want to guess. Maybe you've seen it. This is the U.S. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, congressman or congresswoman, I guess, who, and I think even somebody in the chat said that, this is a popular opinion. Americans do not want involvement. Now, There is kind of a weird situation because of how much divorced people are from sort of like cause and effect. Because, yeah, I think only about 20% of Americans support involvement against Iran, but 80% of Americans want to prevent nuclear Iran. Now, those two things do not go together. You can't do one without the other. Now, you could technically say those people who want to prevent nuclear Iran want to do it through diplomatic means. But the fact is, we have tried it again and again, and it's not working. So I don't know how you want to sort of parse out those numbers, but at the end of the day, those numbers don't really matter. Trump was elected as president by the Electoral College. He is the commander in chief. He has justification, or sort of he has the means to do so. If the Americans do not like it, they can go to the streets, they can vote in the next election, they can prevent him sort of getting in again. But the fact is, this is what's happening right now. I mean, Iyar, what do you, yeah, what do you make generally of this? That this idea that this is not American war, this is not a war America should fight. This is all on Israel, and America is just being dragged in.
Well, I think it's clear for most people here that it's a very easy case of American interest. Iran is a terror state. Iran is behind all of the terror, most of the Islamic terror in the past 40 year or 45 years. And it's not only in fundings and controlling, it's in the message and statement. In January 20th, 1981, Iran and the United States of America has an agreement where Iran basically assets of Iran were released to be used by the Ayatollah regime in about $7.9 billion. United States has promised Iran that it will not intervene military with Iran's regime. And by the way, who was the negotiator and the third state? It was Qatar. Wasn't very different from today's moral degradation. And ever since 1981, and you can check it, there has been a rise in Islamic terror against the West. Now, Israel has been, dealing with Islamic terror before Israel was founded, basically. This area, with the Zionist movement, Jews coming in there, Arabs were murdering them a day in and day out, and they haven't stopped ever since, unfortunately. But the Islamic fanatics and, those who support the Islamic tyrannical point of view, has basically woken up and got the courage to attack the West basically at January 20th, 1981. This is when they figured out, okay, it actually pays off to do terror against the West. Because if we do enough terror and kill enough Westerners, we'll get a better deal. And this is the mistake the West has made. Like, you do not negotiate with terrorists. You do not make agreements with evil. And Ayn Rand pointed out, I think in the 60s, that if you make a deal with evil, if good makes a deal with evil, only evil earns something of this deal. Because if good does not destroy evil, if good makes a deal with evil and basically gives it a moral sanction, evil can keep on exploiting it over and over. Evil is a parasite. So whoever says, so now people are evading this. People are not willing to understand that basically any agreement is just giving moral sanction to evil and feeding evil out of your own resources. And I think it's just hatred for the Jews. Like, whenever the United States stands for its interest, but in some way it's good for the Jews, so no, it's the US selling its interest to help the Israelis in a war it shouldn't join. That's BS. Like, it's completely in the United States of America's interest to destroy the Ayatollah regime, and they should have done it way earlier. And I remind you, and I said it in 2 shows already, Iran has a major part in 9/11. Iran was basically hiding the terrorists that did 9/11. They let them go through their state. without passport control, and that's an active act of hiding those terrorists. And it's time for the West to wake up and acknowledge this fact and stop evading this. All of those evil people in Tucker Carlson and whoever giving more sanction to Iran, evading this fact and lying to its people and giving excuses. This is just, they should be ashamed of themselves. This is, I cannot describe this kind of evil. This is complete suicidal maniac hatred for self. I have no other way to describe that. And comes bundled up with anti-Semitism and hatred for Israel and going against any action that the United States will do that will somehow secure the existence of this state of the Jews that they hate so much. So this is what I have to say about that.
Somebody in the chat says one of the guys is hard to listen to due to an accent. Yeah, I apologize for Richard. I said he should take speaking lessons, but you know it takes time. It's not immediate. I'll go to you, Richard, from a quote from your prime minister. Prime Minister. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So Keir Starmer said Iran's nuclear program is a grave threat to international security. Iran can never be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon, and the US has taken action to alleviate that threat. The situation in the Middle East remains volatile, and stability in the region is a priority. We call on Iran to return to the negotiating table and reach a diplomatic solution to end this crisis. Now, on some level, I'm getting warmed up to this. I think we should keep saying to Iran to return to negotiating table. I think every time we bomb them, we should say, hey, come on, negotiate. Come on, negotiate. But I feel like Keir Starmer is not on the same wavelength as I am right now. Richard?
No, absolutely. I mean, every time you mention Keir Starmer, by the time I've said the word Keir, I'm so disillusioned with the point of the man, I can barely get to his surname. But the fact that he said alleviate that threat is what the US has done. When he was one of the key, cohort of leaders who were trying to get them to negotiate before the strikes, and have been getting them to go negotiated every year for years, only whilst the Iranians, frankly, take the mickey out of the rest of the world by continuing to grow their uranium enrichment beyond what was remotely necessary at any point. I mean, people keep talking about escalation, but the decades of appeasement is what's escalated the terror threat that has existed in the world. Those that have been calling for diplomacy or throughout have been escalating the threat. And the reason that there are those 40,000 US troops in the Middle East was in large part because of Iran. And there would have been far less necessity for there to be troops spread across the Middle East were it not for Iran funding all that terror, all of those different proxies in different parts of the Middle East. And if you want, if you want to see those US troops brought home, then over time that is only possible if that threat is reduced. So those that talk about America first, I'm losing my voice here. Those that talk about America first need to understand that that is only possible if you defeat those that are your enemy and allow you to concentrate on your own security. And your own security is heightened in the long run by what has happened overnight.
Yeah, even the word America first means, put American interests first. And it's in American interest to get rid of the nation that's been causing so many upheavals across the world, that's been causing so many losses of American lives. If you don't put American lives first, you're not going to put America first, are you? So the whole point of, as Richard pointed out, escalation. Guess who's mentioned escalation a few hours ago? Well, Guterres, the leader of the UN, the Secretary General of the UN, the very institution which seems to have been built in order to cause rogue states like Iran, Russia, and China to effectively dictate all over the free countries and the Western civilization. And by pushing the ghost of escalation, by scaring people, escalation, you can't bomb the evil guy because you're gonna escalate. Well, wasn't enriching uranium beyond the point of the civil use, civilian use escalation itself. Wasn't having 60% enriched uranium and facilities which were flying in the face of UN regulation themselves. Wasn't that escalation? Why is it escalation only when the West pushes back down these savages? Why is it only escalation when you defend yourself and you make sure that the threat that makes your life impossible, like in the case of Israel, is not eliminated? That's escalation, but attacking the world constantly for 50 years, funding terrorist activity, funding propaganda all over the world. That's not escalation. I mean, that's so morally inverted. It's just incredible that we still fall for this kind of stuff. And even saying that now we should allow Iran to survive because we don't know what's going to come after. Well, whatever comes after, Iran is not Gaza. We made this point a number of times. The Iranian people have got their own culture, and the culture trumps the last 50 years of these Islamic monsters terrorizing the population. They never wanted Sharia law. It was imposed on them with force. So Iranian will survive. Iranian will set up their own government and get on with it. And once you gotten rid of this state, not only you physically go rid of the danger posed by the regime, but you also send a message to Russia and you send a message to China. The two leftover tyrants once the Islamics have got rid of, Putin and Xi Jinping will look at what's happening now and will take note. They will realize, hang on a second, while we have Trump in charge, we cannot really do what we want as we've been used to until now. And of course, that's another reason why I personally was pushing for during the election. Trump was the right guy to be elected. Not a bad choice between the two of them, but Trump was the guy who would have guaranteed some sort of pushing back to these evil guys. Imagine if Kamala Harris were the president now. I mean, imagine.
Yeah, it's I don't want to, so I won't imagine that. This is what we have, and this is what we'll work with, and it's specifically on Iran, it's working great. Now, I wanted to read because you mentioned Guterres, so I'll read what he posted. So he said, I am gravely alarmed by the use of force by the United States against Iran today. This is a dangerous escalation in a region already on the edge and a direct threat to the international peace and security. I mean, it's the same. Like, it's. I think he just has templates. I think he just has like a template, and it's this free nation attack this dictatorship. I'm posting this. When, like, I mean, to go to you, Yara, when do you think the West would like look at us taking out these dictatorships, us attacking, but attacking, not just directing, defending ourselves? Because you might see something a bit more positive when it comes to Ukraine defending itself, but never directly them, sort of their offensive actions are never that much praise. So when do you think we'll see like an actual positive view of us taking out dictatorships, let's say similar to allies taking down the Nazi Germany or the Japanese Empire? Because I feel like this will never happen with the kind of philosophy we have today. It's always the West is escalating.
Well, Antonio Guterres is a communist. He was a member of the Communist Party in his states, and he's basically an anti-Western agent running the United Nations. And I think that's it's quite they suit each other, they fit each other. One kind finds his kind. The United Nations is an evil organization in essence because it gives an equal vote to a dictatorship and a free nation. That's like in essence. And all of the evil things you see that come out of it, like this organization keep condemning Israel over and over and over and over and over, while letting dictatorships and tyrannical regimes do whatever they want. Having Iran and other tyrannical regimes stand in managed councils for human rights and for women's rights and for peace. and for anti-nuclear committees is a damn joke. This whole organization is a facade, and it's all and it's the moral essence of this organization is moral relativism. Each collective has a right to form his kind of reality he lives in and set the metaphysical grounds for morality. This is how they see it, as if our world is some sort of a mold you can play with and set up the rules of and human nature to fit your regime. It's a complete joke. It's time for an alliance of Western countries that are pro-human rights and pro-liberty, and this alliance should be the one, quote unquote, policing the world and defining what is right and what is wrong under principles of objective morality and human rights. And such alliance should not allow dictatorship not only to participate in the alliance but to exist. And such dictatorship should have no political and diplomatic ties with the West whatsoever. And whenever they impose a danger on whatever country, such alliance should go against those dictatorships. And this is the proper model for the world. And nobody's talking about it. Like the vast majority of the people in the Western world take the UN for granted. They see it as a moral beacon. They see it as the place where the world agrees on what's right and what's wrong. And they just ignore the fact that it's done by moral relativism. It's done by giving the same vote to a murderous, horrible regime such as the United States of America and Israel and whatever. Now, there is the point of the Security Council, which is where the real deal is going on. But over there as well, China and Russia has a veto right. So like, what's even the point? All they manage to do, like, they only get like a consensus when they have to condemn Israel again, when there is like a less like when there is a democratic administration in the United States. So sometimes the Security Council managed to get a condensation against Israel. That's basically what this organization is about. So it's just like, I think it's very poetic to have Guterres as the how do you call it, the main secretary of this organization. I think it's just poetic. It fits perfectly. It's as if it's a novel to have this guy run this organization and have these stupid, horrible PC anti-Western statements going on. I think in a sense, intellectually speaking, it could serve as an eye-opener, which is quite of a good thing in all of this horrible mess, corruption sandwich, which is the UN.
We have a super chat from Jeff, thank you so much. A super chat from Bonnie, thank you so much. And a super chat from Roland, thank you so much. He sends this money to speech therapy, money for Richard, go Israel. Thank you so much. We'll make sure it reaches the right hands. Yeah, I mean, to go to you, Marco. Yeah, I don't know. It's way too morning. I'm kind of tired. I'm not really focused. But I think just sort of like wrapping up, this is great stuff to see. Yeah, I guess the question would be sort of like, can we expect more? Was the goal basically for Trump to just come in, take out the nuclear sites, and now what is America going to be more involved, or is this all that's going to be, or is it dependent on Iranian response if they do indeed decide to attack American bases? No, I'm seeing a report that apparently the Iranian foreign minister is just traveling to Russia to meet with Putin, and Putin has also said that he is not talking with Trump, or that he hasn't discussed anything with Trump. And also, I think Israel officially said that this was done in cooperation with Israel. But my understanding is that this was a solo American operation. Israel knew that it was going to happen, but wasn't involved directly with it.
Yeah, I think it mainly depends on Iran's reaction. If the regime decides to go out with a bang and throw everything they've got to the US and Israel, well, then they're not going to last much longer than they should. Probably they're now going to Russia, trying to negotiate, we let us have asylums or stuff like that. They're probably trying to shift out some millions out of Iran to make sure they live a cushy life. And of course, America and Israel are not interested in taking over territory. They don't care about invading Iran, which would be a stupid thing to do in the first place. I mean, who would want Iran in the first place? But if the regime decides to fight back, well, then of course the US will have to take out the potential sources of more violence against the US. After all, let's not forget that Iran is the state whose tagline is "Death to America, Death to the West." I mean, which part of "Death to America" you don't understand is against America, is a declaration of war against America? Which part of "Death to America" makes you wonder, well, perhaps these guys can be our friends? America First means making sure nobody says "Death to America." So if they insist, if they provide more violence, they will be met with more violence. But if they decide, okay, we give up, we better all pick up our gold and stolen stuff and run away to some other dictatorship and live our last days like that, well, they will probably left alone. They shouldn't be. Hopefully they'll be assassinated at some point. But they can choose to do that. They can choose to relinquish power and let the Iranian people be free and to look after for themselves. We'll see. I think, as ER mentioned earlier on, because this is actually a bunch of radicalized religious fanatics, probably they will want to die on it. But that means putting more and more Iranian lives at risk. But we know they don't care about their own population. So hopefully it's not going to be more violence. But if they choose violence, they will have to die of violence.
In the course of some of the coverage that I've read in the newspapers concerning this conflict, I've seen a lot of infographics that compare Iran and Israel. Some of those are extremely revealing, but not in the ways that people necessarily think. For example, take one of the military comparisons. One that was shown in the papers only a few days ago was there were 52,000 Iranian aircraft as opposed to 34,000 Israeli aircraft. Well, the larger number didn't count, did it, when it came to air superiority within a matter of days? The Israeli talent and technology, equipment, ability of their military and their brain power ultimately is what superseded the number of aircraft on the Iranian side. So you can't just take a number as being indicative of superiority. However, in other cases, I think you can. And it depends on the context of what you're looking at. One of the other infographics showed that the population of Israel is only about a tenth of the population of Iran, and yet the GDP of Israel is about 100 billion more than the GDP of that 10 times population of Iran. And that tells you an awful lot behind the scenes as to how these countries have prioritized productivity in the case of Israel and prioritized terror and tunnels in the case of Iran. And ultimately, the success of a nation, which is made up of the individuals within that nation, is based on where you put your emphasis. Whether you put your emphasis on productivity and individual rights and the chance for people to lead lives of creation and success, or whether people focus on destruction and death and annihilation and nihilism. And that comparison comes out of understanding more than just two pictures and two sets of numbers within a newspaper report, but looking at the principles behind what underlies those. And therefore, when you look at ideas like escalation, which people treat as like floating ideas, they're not looking at what links it to reality, what links it to the context, what links it to what has led us to this point, where is it true, where is it not, what does it really mean? All of those are necessary if we're really to understand what's going on and then to make better decisions in the long-term future.
Yara, any last thoughts from you, and where can people find you?
So Israel and the United States should keep striking Iran, and they should go for focus on targets of the regime itself and its maintaining civil order. Israel has already done that. A leader, they attacked some Basij headquarters. The Basij is like the Iranian Gestapo. So they're moving towards this way. It should be done even more. If it was up to me, I would also call for the United States and Israel to attack their like supply chain and food and water and whatever. But obviously they wouldn't do that. But it's completely moral. Whatever it takes to make this regime completely collapse and then start a new regime that is peaceful and respects civil rights. And then it's in the interest of all the Iranians, at least the ones who are rational. I would also like to state that last night, the Israeli Shin Bet and IDF has rescued 3 hostages that was murdered by Hamas. Ofra Keidar, which was a member of Be'eri Kibbutz and was brutally murdered and kidnapped on October 7, 2023 by Palestinians. She was murdered at 71 years old, a mother of 3, and the wife of Shmuel Keidar, who was also murdered in October 7th at their house at Be'eri. Yonatan Samarno, he was also brutally murdered and kidnapped from Be'eri on October 7th, 2023. The one who kidnapped him was an UNRWA employee, and Yonatan was murdered after he ran away from the Nova party. He was 21 years old. And we have also rescued Shai Levinson, who was a tank commander and fought the terrorists on October 7th. He died in battle and kidnapped as well. He was 19 years old. As of now, there are 50 hostages still held in Gaza by Palestinians. 30 of them were murdered and 20 are still alive. Israel is still fighting the war in Gaza. And this is also an interesting point because you can see Israel's capabilities against Iran, and still we're struggling years in Gaza. And this, bridged me to my point that yes, Israel has great capabilities, and if you only look at pure capabilities, we could have ended it way sooner. But it's mostly about ideas. It's mostly about philosophy. It's mostly about moral sanction. And if the Israel would have allowed itself, and if the Western world would have allowed Israel to do whatever it takes to destroy this Palestineism movement and destroy Hamas and all of those other militants and make the Palestinians completely surrender and bring us back the hostages and do whatever it takes, we would have more hostages alive way sooner. There are still hostages held alive in Gaza. So this is just a point of thought. In a brighter tone, I am Yair Reichel. I am an associate in the Ayn Rand Center Israel. I'm recommending you to go to www.aynrand.org.il/about to read about the Israeli Ayn Rand Center and support us. And I am also a part of the movement called Victory Now. We are working on a book that gives Israel a plan for victory and displays a moral case for Israel's victory. If you like what my points in this regard, please visit www.victory.now, where you can read our articles, sign up for the book, and donate. Thank you very much.
And Marco, Richard, where can people find you?
You can check out the Briefly Objective, the sister channel to this. The link is in the description below, where you'll find lots of short videos with added visuals that really get to the heart of the principles we've been talking about. And they will include within them comments on Iran and why Iran needed to be tackled as the key source of terror within the Middle East and indeed the world. And those videos, made across the whole of this period that Israel has been fighting, and those principles remain clear even from each of those videos. So please check them out and give them as many likes and subscribes as we can, as together with this channel, so that we can really promote the understanding of not only just how Ayn Rand approached the world and how objectivism tackles it, but a reason-based approach, a principles-based approach to making the world safer and everybody's lives, individual lives, better.
And this is not it for today. We'll go live again in exactly 6 hours at 5:30 p.m. UK time, 12 8:30 p.m. Eastern, with more both updates on what's going on and as well as the moral defense for the West, Israel, and America. Thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you everybody for watching, and see you in 6 hours. Bye bye.